in the same location. At this time, I also welcome members of the public accessing this meeting remotely. Even though this meeting is being conducted in a unique manner under unusual circumstances, the rules of conduct and decorum apply. I'll start the meeting by taking a roll call of attendance. When each member states their name, also please state whether there's anyone in the room with you during the meeting. So I will get that kicked off. I will ask all members to mute themselves when they're not speaking, just so we don't keep down the background noise. But I'll go ahead and start with Doug.
I'm here alone.
Okay, Douglas McCallum was the first one there. Pam?
Pam Judham, I'm here alone.
Okay, thank you, Pam. Gwen?
Gwen English, Planning Board Rep, and I am alone.
Okay, thank you, Gwen. Julie?
Good evening. Julie Gilman, Select Board Rep to the Commission, and I am alone.
Thank you. Curtis?
Curtis Boylan, Vice Chair. I am alone.
Thank you. Grayson?
Grayson Shepherd, I'm here alone.
Thank you, Grayson. And myself, Patrick Gordon, the chair. I am here and I am alone. All right, we're going to kick things off with new business and the public hearing for the application of Jefferson Homes, Inc. for the demolition of an existing structure located at 110 High Street. The subject property is located in the R2 Single Family Residential Zoning District, tax map parcel number 71-53, and this is case number 20-6 for the HDC. Before I ask the applicant to start introduce, is there any information, Dave, that we are missing? I do have this copy, which we all have, that was the checklist, and it does have a checklist next to all of these items here, but I don't see all of these items in our packet, including architectural details and things of that nature. Are our packets incomplete for this application?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. I just have what was given to me and what I was submitted to the town. I do have my afterward checks, but
right.
And is there what is missing on there?
Well, architectural details as applicable, including but not limited to window and door details, cornerboard, trim, eave, railings, cupolas, brackets, and shutters. Material descriptions, not limited to but including windows, doors, siding, trim, masonry, exterior lighting. Existing photos, existing site, existing structure, proposed ideas. Those are all checked off as having been submitted.
Yes, and this is, if you can see it, this is I had submitted the building plan with the package and the floor plans and the elevations.
Yep, we have the first floor plan and a second floor plan, and then we have one elevation.
That's what I submitted.
Okay, there's no indication of any brands of windows or types or materials or anything like that for any of the components of the construction?
No, I didn't know that needed to be part of this at this time, Mr. Chair, but I thought I just needed to submit what the building would look like with the details in the floor plan, but maybe I misread that.
Yeah, I think to be most transparent, an application, especially one proposed for demolition, we as a board or a commission are not going to approve a demolition unless we know exactly what's going in its place. And it would be a complete application to show exactly what would be going in its place before we could move forward with a decision. So we can proceed tonight as entered, but I'm going to make a recommendation to the board that we don't accept this application tonight as complete for us to be able to make a decision on, barring that we don't have the materials to be able to make a decision.
Okay, where in the application does it say that I had to have windows sizes, specs and all that? Is that part of the application? Because I didn't get that. I'm sure I would have submitted it.
Under the second check mark there, architectural details as applicable, including but not limited to window, door, corner board, trim, eave, railings, cupolas, brackets, and shutters. So there's no details other than that elevation. So there's no description of, are the windows vinyl? Are the windows fiberglass? Are the windows aluminum? Are they wood? Are the trims AZAC? Are they painted primed pine? Are the brackets fiberglass? Are the, I can go on, but that's the information that we would need. And typically we're getting, for window and door details, we're also getting head, jamb, sill details of the construction, the trims to look at from a historic perspective.
Okay, that would probably be stuff that's submitted with from the manufacturer of windows and stuff like that. Would be part of the package, because we haven't drawn a full set of plans with an architectural set of plans, because it's the process to know where we're going. I thought that would be. I'm not sure my first time doing this, so I'm not sure that this would be something that if it was approved, then it would be subject to the plans and details approved by the HDC. Without going into
the way the process. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I didn't know, without having a full set of plans, and hire an architect to draw the building ahead of time with the details and all that, and cornices and all that. I didn't know you had to have that, but that I wasn't sure would be an expense up front at first. I thought it would be a matter of what you think is going to, what the building would look like, somewhat subject to A, B, C, and D of what the product is.
Right. More information is always better than little. And in a case where you're asking for an existing historic structure to be demolished and something to be put in its place, we ask for a lot of detail in that case, because the decision that we make as a commission is not, let's go ahead and approve the demolition, and then, hey, then we'll approve what's going to replace it as a separate meeting. It's one and the same as a decision on the application. So we've seen applications that have 4 elevations, and on those elevations, the materials are called out, at least material, and not color. Not necessarily color is something that is in our purview, but we can make recommendations for historic colors, but also the detailing as what's the lap of the siding, what's the material of the siding, what are the materials of the trim, the windows, are they simulated divided light, are they authentic divided light, do they have historic thick sills? That type of information is what we need to have a complete application to make a decision.
I understand.
So if you'd like to proceed, then you can, go ahead and introduce the application to us, and we can have some general comments which may help you and inform you as to what to come back with. But I'm going to make a recommendation that we don't pass a motion to accept the application as complete at this time.
Okay. So the requirements are on this architecture details. Those are the, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 8 or 10 items that you're looking for?
Yeah, I think it would probably be helpful if you wanted to go ahead and introduce what you wanted to do, and then let the commission members say what information they themselves think that they need to complete the application, so we can make an educated decision.
Can I tell you what I'm thinking of, what I use for product?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So my intention was to replenish it. I think you saw the building, the elevation of what type of building I wanted to put in the new home. Yep. And it does have, the true divided lights. It has it's all AZAC and wood clapboard siding with Anderson windows, the Anderson 400 windows. That's the product I use when I do these projects. And architectural shingles. We have landscaping in the front of the building, and we're trying to follow what the elevation was that I submitted, and that's the product typically we use in the projects we do like this. But seeing what is on the street of High Street and knowing and trying to stay in the same type of product. It's not vinyl windows. These are Anderson 400 series. And we're doing a wide clapboard siding with the AZAC trim. And it's all that type of product.
Okay.
As far as
the 400 series is what material?
Anderson is the Anderson windows is the 400 series, and
what's the material?
It's like a clad exterior. It's not a wood window.
What's the clad exterior? Is it a vinyl like the clad exterior?
Yeah, the Anderson. I'm sure you've seen the Andersons, their line of the 400 series.
I know that there's 400 series. There's the Woodwright series. There's their Eagle series, the E series. There's multiple. So I'm trying to understand what one you're proposing. Yeah,
it's like a clad exterior. It's like I'm not sure that I'd have to look at what the proper name of that is that we use. Okay. I've always gone by the Anderson 400 series.
And then you had said true divided light, as in that each of these panes will be individual panes of glass. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the grid is exterior to interior. So
it's not a single pane of glass divided by applied.
It is a single pane, but they put the grids on the exterior. They call on the exterior and the interior.
Okay, so that would be simulated divided light.
Yeah. It's not the grid. The grids are not in between the glass like you see on some of them.
Okay, and then the trims around the windows is what material?
It's the same product. It's an AZAC product that is like the wide trim around the window with the window sills.
Okay, is there any detail to that trim? Do you know, is it flat stock? Does it have an OG?
It's flat stock.
Is it a brick mold?
No, it's a flat stock. It's like 1x5 flat stock on the sides with a 1x6 on the header. And you get your 2.5 slope sill, AZAC sill.
So a thick sill then, 2.5 inch sill, you're saying?
Yeah. Kind of matches the old style windows.
Okay. Header you said is a 1x6.
Yeah. The columns on the front porch that are there, the columns are all wrapped in the AZAC trim. Square columns.
Okay. What about the railings?
The railings, I only put the railings if it's needed by code. If we did, it would be the vinyl, the white vinyl railings that are maintenance free. That's why we use those.
Okay. Did by chance you download a copy of the Historic District Guidelines for this application?
No, I didn't.
Okay. If you were to look in there, which I definitely stress that you do before you come back next time, vinyl is not recommended.
Railings?
Yeah, or any material really for the exterior.
Okay. All right.
The decking is what would the decking be?
The decking would be a mahogany decking.
Okay. We certainly like that. Wide clapboard siding, you said. What would the lat be on the clapboard? Approximately?
It would be about 4.5 inches, 5 inches. 5 inches.
5 inches, okay.
Yeah. The front door is a wood fir door.
Okay. Wood Douglas fir. Okay. Roofing materials, you had said an
Yeah,
architectural asphalt shingle.
Yes.
Is the chimney truly going to be clad in the same clapboard as it's shown in the image, or is that going to be a brick chimney?
As in the image.
Okay. Okay. The garage doors.
The garage doors will be a wood veneer door to match the stain like the front door.
Wood veneer steel insulated door.
It's a steel door with a wood panel on the front instead of the full Copley doors. It's an insulated door with an 1.25 or 1.5 veneer on the top that goes on. I'm using it in a lot of places.
Okay. Are there gutters or downspouts?
Yes.
It's not. Those are not seen or shown on the image.
There'll be gutters in the front over that front porch, and the gable on the garage takes care of the gutters. From water going in the front.
Okay, so we would have downspouts.
Yeah.
A downspout on either the right side of the door or the left side of the door.
Oh, it'd be on the right side.
Of the entry door.
Yeah, it would pick up that little roof that's on the right side also. And then it'd be a downspout on that corner.
Okay. That's all of the questions that I can think of in terms of materials right now. I'll open it up to any other commission members if there's additional information that you'd need to feel the application to be complete. Go ahead, Doug.
What I heard you say, Mr. Lowe's, is this is a product that we typically do in projects like this. And it looks to me like it is the typical home that you would develop anywhere, regardless of its context. And I don't see anything in your design that is specific to this context. I'd like to see a massing analysis of the block, the neighborhood surrounding this house, and demonstrate how does it fit into the neighborhood. Otherwise, what you're showing is just a typical suburban home in New England, and there's nothing about it that's unique to this place. And we're trying to preserve the historic character of this neighborhood because we think it's special. And I'd like you to demonstrate how you could do that.
Well, actually, if I might bring this up, this same property came to the Heritage Board last summer, and we said it is historically important and we need to keep it. I want to see this same house fixed.
Yeah, Pam and Julie were both on the Heritage Commission during that meeting and that demolition review. Pam, would you like to summarize that? Because we did get that letter and that recommendation and the meeting minutes in our packet. Pam, do you want to go ahead and summarize that for us, or Julie?
Well, let's see what if I can. You surely don't want me to go through the whole history of the house.
No, that's why I'm asking for a summary.
Yeah, but this is a early 1900s house, like 1901. It has definitely. We went through all of this last summer, and there were with plenty of the abutters, and we basically decided that this is something that Exeter needs to keep. It does have historic significance to the area and to the town. And I'm not going to read the whole 6 pages for you, but surely the hospital knows this.
Okay. Julie, is there anything you wanted to add as part of that summary? I think you might be muted.
I think she might.
I was looking on at the documentation. I asked a preservation planner that I know to do a drive-by, and her interpretation was that this is a contributing resource to the historic district. The district is made up of houses from centuries of development, and we have something from the 18th century up to the 20th century. So capturing something from that period is, I think, an important piece of the preservation, and that was part of the discussion with the Demolition Review Committee, that it is a contributing factor. And by contributing, this is something that people don't understand when we talk about historical resources, is that it is a historical resource is a piece of property, a building, a space, an appurtenance that is an identifying character of the district that it's in. Now, I might say this is not identifying because there aren't other houses like this, but it represents the period that it was built in. It represents the growth of Exeter and the density of infill architecture. And that was part of the discussion with the Demo Review Committee, who, I'm sorry, Dave Lotz was not there for that, but it is part of the exchange of the conversation.
Right, that view and that application was submitted by still the current owners now, Exeter Hospital, for the same request of a demolition. And I also believe that comments surrounding that were that the existing condition of the building now, which a year later I assume has not changed or has worsened, it was more so evidence and documented from more neglect of maintenance than more so anything else in terms of foundation shifting or chinking and roofing and things like that. So I did see in the evaluation from Ekman Engineering, also their structural analysis, their report itself does look like a pretty good report documenting the neglect of that building and the lack of maintenance for that building.
I would like to add into that the Demolition Review Committee was not allowed inside the building or the barn because the asbestos ascertainment hadn't occurred. So we couldn't see what the engineer saw.
Okay. Gotcha. With that, I'll ask other commission members if they'd like to speak about the application or provide any other guidance as to the information that we would need to complete a decision on this. Curtis, go ahead.
I reviewed the house and I was trying to determine if I thought it was an icon of a specific architecture or it had cultural significance. And I did think it had a cultural significance to the neighborhood and therefore does rank in something that can be preserved. Is it the height of anything? Not really. It's a residential building, but it is something that has survived, and it does have historical character to it, that there was no attempt to provide any reuse. And the plan that's presented looks like something out of 101 home plans. It doesn't look like anything that is of historic character to it. So I'm reluctant to proceed with this new house replacing the old. I don't like it.
Okay. Thank you, Curtis. Grayson, go ahead.
It's very briefly, I mean, I'm just kind of echoing Curtis's thoughts that he just provided. I mean, it's appears to have historical significance, and it doesn't seem that there's no information provided, and based on the information that we've seen from the demolition review, that there was really any consideration to even try and bring it up to code or reuse the building. So that's given me pause as well at this point. But that's everyone else has kind of requested whatever information that may be required. So
Okay, Gwen, go ahead.
I am in agreement with all the comments that have been made so far, and I really don't have any further questions. The one thing I did, and Pam, you did give us a date when this house was built. I had talked to somebody today about it, and their thought was that it had been built in 1850. So I don't know what the correct number is. But
well, we can't tell you exactly.
Okay.
Because our records aren't that great. The first time I have a solid record of somebody living there is 1901. But I realize that I don't have that kind of records that go back before they had street numbers. I can tell you that people were living up on that side of High Street. I can't locate it by the hospital because there's no hospital. I can't locate it by Buzzell Avenue because there's no Buzzell Avenue. So
Gotcha.
I could definitely say it's early. It's 1901. It's probably earlier. It looks earlier to me.
Yeah, it looks earlier to me as well. And I'm just thinking of, a 170-year-old house. It's unique. It's in spite of the fact that it's a little rough around the edges, very rough around the edges right now. I think it's a charming house. It does represent a period of time that I think should be honored. And I don't need to say any more. You all have stated your points, and I am in agreement with you.
Well, it didn't get any better by being left neglected for
no,
a
it
year.
didn't. Sadly,
Yeah.
Homes don't do well neglected.
So I think it's clear by the Heritage Commission's letter of recommendation for it being a asset to keep. More so not for a specific style of architecture that it may represent, but for the fabric of the neighborhood that it represents, and also how it approaches the street and how it creates the historic streetscape that's there now. I would ask Mr. Lazu, if you were to demolish the building, I would understand that new zoning ordinance would apply to the front setback, and that you wouldn't be able to grandfather in the existing setback that is there now without keeping some portion of that original structure. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
So it would, even if the demolition was approved and the property was raised, you'd have to seek a variance to put that front of the building back where it currently creates the streetscape that it does historically. Without that variance, it would have to be set back per existing and current zoning ordinance, which I don't think is to the benefit of the neighborhood. And would therefore not be in favor of removing the existing building because of that. And thinking that the existing structure and renovating it would be a better option for the community and for the preservation of the streetscape, which is also supported by our master plan. So that would be my recommendations. Board, I still don't believe that we have a complete application. So I don't think that we can move to accept an application and then move to a approval or denial tonight because of that. And I don't think that I think it would be premature for us to make that decision based on this. I think we should ask the applicant to complete the application and maybe come back with something that he may deem more appropriate for the time period or the streetscape. I would ask the applicant, I assume that this decision, because you have not purchased the property yet, that this decision is probably a determining factor on whether you go through with the purchase of this property. If you can't demolish the existing building and put something there new, then it has much less value to you from a investor perspective or a developer perspective. Would that be fair to say?
Yes. I just think it's always try to save it, but when I listen to my experts of engineers who know more than I do about the building and the structure end of it, and trying to save that right now, there is some substantial damage to the place. And to make it livable with the mold and the roof and snow and the rain that's been going in there through the years, it's really deteriorated substantially. Foundations have settled, and dirt floors, it's inhabitable inside to try to get it. Me as the buyer couldn't even get in the garage because of the liability of not being safe to get in there. And that back corner, I think in a year or two, my honest opinion is that thing's going to collapse. And so looking at that, and I take my engineer's advice pretty seriously because they're the experts. We're not. And it's always easy to try to raise something and save it. Yes, if we could have, and they said we could have, we would have. Mm-hmm. But the way it is and the condition that it is, it's just cost prohibitive to do that. And I think that's what anybody looking at this and trying to do that to it is going to be into a substantial amount of capital to even try to save that right now. It's like raising the Titanic right now. Yeah. It's so bad. It's so bad. And the cost is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Unfortunately, financial hardship of something like that for historic preservation has not ever been grounds for granting a demolition of it. We do also have as part of our ordinance, demolition by neglect is something that we as a town, that is something that protects us from property owners that do neglect buildings, and ultimately buildings demolish themselves because of neglect. So we have that as a safeguard against that. We can't necessarily make anybody do anything with their property, but that is in our zoning ordinance as protection. So I think the options at this point would be to either table this application and come back with more information to make it complete, or your option would be to withdraw the application.
Mr. Chair, before we go into that, I'd like to add a little bit more background.
Sure.
The building does appear on the 1896 bird's eye view of the map of Exeter, and in fact, there's a special corner down at the bottom of the map that includes this part of High Street. And the other thing is that the Heritage Commission and the Historic District Commission are not by RSA permitted to hire a third-party inspection or engineer, and any kind of structural position that someone might take. So we're at a disadvantage, which as a state representative, maybe I can change, but it's frustrating that we can get an opinion, and that's great that there is an opinion here, but we can't refute that or agree with it.
Are we not allowed under the RSA guidance in terms of discovery and research to inform us on an application? Are we not allowed on that premise?
No, only the planning board is, and the reference to any kind of other input for the Historic District Commission is to get input from the Heritage Commission.
Okay. Which our recommendation we have, and it is that it is a historically significant structure and building to keep as their recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
My question, I don't know, what happens if a year or 2 years, what happens if that building collapses?
Likely, we would pursue demolition by neglect for the current owner, is what we would do, and that would be a mechanism that we could use through the building and planning office, and the code enforcement officer would be issuing a citation for them, or a penalty or something. I don't know exactly what the mechanism is, but it would be on the guidance of demolition by neglect. Julie, maybe you can bring more clarity to that. You're on mute.
I'm just bringing up the zoning ordinance. We have not had this particular instance happen because the last piece of property that had a demolition by neglect was an endangerment to the life safety, and it was not actually in the historic district at the time, I don't believe.
Okay. So we'd have to get more clarity as to what the mechanism is, but that's most likely the action that we would pursue as a town.
Yes.
So with that, I will put it back to any of the commission members again for any additional comment. After that, I'll then ask the applicant what he wants to do with this application. Go ahead, Doug. Anything further?
I was just going to say that I didn't understand the fact that the underlying current zoning was not conforming to the historic standards for setback. And I think that the idea of renovating the building to take advantage of that setback is far preferable to tearing it down and building something that would be completely out of context.
Agreed. Pam, go ahead.
Well, I was a member. I still am a member of the Heritage Commission, and I, at last August meeting, said I want to keep that building for all the reasons we have said, and it hasn't gotten any less historic in the last year. It is falling apart, and I do think that it looks as if the owners, I hope it's not true, but it looks as if they want it to fall apart.
Okay. Gwen, go ahead. Anything additional?
No, I don't have anything additional. Actually, I do have a question. Regarding the asbestos, you said that there had been some further investigation on that since the last go round with this particular home. Is it still in a state that would not allow somebody to go in and do more investigation?
I think the asbestos has been removed.
Right. I'm guessing it was like maybe linoleum or tiles on the floor, or was it?
From the report, I think there was a copy of that in the package. Was there?
I didn't. Oh, I don't think
it wasn't clear. I think the assumption was that it was a floor material, but it didn't specify.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah. From what what they told me they had taken out.
Okay. I'm all set, Patrick. Thank you.
Okay, Julie.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, my comments are really about the process. Right now, we should be deciding whether or not we have enough information to accept the application as presented, as opposed to our opinion on the project itself.
Okay. Yes, fair point. Thank you. Curtis?
Certainly professionally, I've restored buildings that have looked a lot worse. We're just finishing up one in South Berwick currently. The house next door to me was renovated, and that's a 1940s house, and that was in pretty terrible condition. But they had done a lot to keep the main structure of the house and replace a lot of the framing in the house, including the floor and the entire roof, to produce a new house that's sold at a high price.
Okay. Grayson?
Nothing additional.
Okay, great. Thank you. So with that, and because this is a public hearing, we do have to open it up to the public. We do have 9 attendees, 2 of which have their hands raised right now. So at this time, I will call on them for public comment. If you would please state your name and your residence and your connection to the building and why you would want to speak today on this application. And then if you are not an Exeter resident, we as a board have to vote if you have a interest in the building that deems that you are able to speak tonight. So the first I'll call on is William Campbell, Exeter TV. If you could go ahead and let him unmute. Go ahead, William.
Okay, can you hear me? Is Bill Campbell, and my wife Ann and I live across the street from 110 High Street at 111 High Street. We've lived in this town since 73 and at this address since 1996. First, let me say that I think we are lucky to have the hospital in our town, providing medical services to the area. In my opinion, they do a fine job in that area. Their interaction with the neighborhood is not quite as stellar. As you're probably aware, the hospital bought the 1850s house at 110 High Street in 2006. At the time, it had been a residence, but the family of 4 had moved out, and Dr. Bozak, the owner, sold it to the hospital. The hospital then went to the ZBA or planning board, I'm not sure which, to have the property subdivided so they could add the bottom 20 or 30 feet to the buffer they were creating around the hospital property. That was fine. We then assumed they would be upgrading the house and add it to their collection of houses they maintain for incoming physicians and staff. However, for 14 years, they've done nothing to the physical building. As you are aware, last fall, the Heritage Committee recommended unanimously that the building not be demolished. The hospital said they would reassess their opinions and get back to us. This is the High Street group that has been concerned about this. The next thing we learned is that they have a P&S with Jefferson Homes. I have several unanswered questions. The hospital was aware that the house was in a High Street historic district when they bought the house. Why have they not shown any respect for the designation and let the building fall into disrepair? If they want to sell the building, why didn't they put it in an MLS listing to see if there was someone willing to buy the house and restore it? Why is there no effort to keep us informed as to what they were going to do and perhaps ask for our reaction? And finally, Jefferson's Home has a purchase and sale to purchase the house. What happens if they are granted permission to demolish the building and then decide for any of several reasons, the economy is not right, they have too many other projects, if it's too costly or whatever, they decide not to build? Can they then sell the lot back to the hospital, who would then wind up with the empty lot that they wanted last fall, but were denied? The members of the High Street Historic District are very proud of the many historic homes on this street. High Street is a premier gateway to the historic town from the east. Our group spent a lot of time and effort to establish the High Street Historic District after a nearby historic barn was surprisingly demolished over a July 4th weekend by another party. That was before 2006. We have pride in the historic nature of our street and the overall historic atmosphere of the town. An 1850s original house, and I get that number off the town website, an 1850s original house with an attached barn was quite common in the 1800s, but not now. We need to preserve our heritage. We cannot afford to let our history destroy our history piece by piece. Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, have you received several other emails? And would you be reading those into the record? I believe at least 3 other residents have written.
Yes, they have, and we have them.
Okay.
Yes, we have received them as emails. They are part of our packets, and we have read and reviewed them as part of our...
Thank you.
the submission. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Next, with their hand raised, is Kathy Courson. Kathy, go ahead.
Hello. I'm Kathy Courson of 3 Folsom Street. Hello to everyone, since I was on the board, committee not too long ago. I live one house in from High Street, and I just want to emphasize that High Street is a neighborhood where people have invested greatly in their homes. And it is very important that whoever buys or develops this property develops it in a way that is is what the street has been looking for. I was actually on the planning board when High Street was designated a historic district. And if we don't take this seriously, and I have to say, from things that I've been seeing, the ZBA needs to step up and support you people, the Historic District Commission. And in this case, if they don't, there are a lot of people, like I said, that have really invested a lot of money in their homes. And this is a crying shame if we let a cookie cutter house go on High Street. And so I really think that this needs to be looked at closely. And I know just from the cases that I heard while I was on the Historic District Commission, how thoroughly you can work on, say, a door at Citizens Bank Building and really look at the details of everything. And I really think that the neighbors, and not just the 9 people that are here tonight that have come forward, but we as a neighborhood, we do things like, we put luminaries up and down High Street at Christmas. We have a Christmas party. We are neighbors and neighborly, and we expect that. And unfortunately, I will say the hospital kind of put this through the back door, so to speak, and it's unfortunate. But I really liked what I heard from all of you tonight. You were incredibly thorough, and I appreciate it. And I thank God that you're here so that you keep our town looking the way that we are investing in it. So I appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you, Kathy, and thank you for your support. Next with a hand raised is Martin Myers. Martin, go ahead.
There we go. I think you can hear me now, I hope.
Yes,
thank you. Good evening. And I'll make my comments very brief. I am...
Martin, before you start, are you an Exeter resident?
I was about to say, yes, I am Bill and Ann Campbell's neighbor.
Okay.
My family and I live at 113 High Street.
Thank you.
I've been here since the summer of 2004. And so we have observed what Bill described and what you all have described, the slow deterioration of the house at 110 High Street. And I just want to, number one, highlight that I 100% agree with Bill's summary and Kathy's comments, and I'm grateful for the thoughtful way in which you all are examining this application. I was a little surprised when I received the public notice, but I'm very grateful for the seriousness with which you are all taking this request, and I'm very hopeful that that you will continue in your very good work. I don't have anything more to say. I just wanted to, and I've shared some thoughts with you by email as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Myers. Appreciate it. We have no other hands raised at this time. So At this point, I'm going to give back to the applicant for rebuttal to the public comments that were raised. Go ahead.
I don't have any comments to the neighbors on that. I understand. At this point, I'd like to withdraw my application.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think as a commission, as a board, Julie, correct me if I'm wrong, but if the applicant is withdrawing the application, then there's no need for us to make a motion to deny the application as acceptable. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, because we have nothing more to consider.
Okay. So then...
well, actually, no, Patrick, let me correct that. We do have an active case number, so yes, we should make a motion to accept the withdrawal.
Okay.
That will end the case. So when the applicant wants to come back, they start anew.
Start a new application, correct. Okay. So then this is case number 20-6 for the HDC. I'm going to call for a motion from one of our commission members to make a motion to accept the withdrawal of this case number 20-6 from the applicant.
I move that we accept withdrawal of case 20-6.
Can you add to that? Can you amend your motion to say from the Historic District Commission, please?
From the I move that we accept the withdrawal of case 20-6 from the Historic District Commission.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
I will second that, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Gwen, for your second. Pam Jedham was made the motion. By roll call, we'll call for a vote on the motion. Doug, please go ahead.
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Gwen?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Curtis?
Yes.
And Grayson?
Yes.
All right, no need for myself as chair to vote. We have a unanimous, or we have a more than enough for a quorum. Thank you very much, Mr. Lazio, for the application. We do appreciate it, and wish you the best in future endeavors. Thank you. Moving on to other business. We have no other new business public hearings in front of us right now. So moving on to other business as part of our agenda, we have the approval of meeting minutes from August 6th and August 20th. Before we get into that, I would like to ask and raise another piece of other business, which is comments about any action that we as the HDC may take in response to the ZBA's decision on Tuesday night to grant the appeal that reversed our decision to keep the Ioka marquee on the building. They granted the appeal, which removed our condition from their application to keep the marquee. So as of right now, the ZBA's binding decision is that marquee, after 6 months of being preserved off-site, can be done away with. So as part of that decision, they granted the application to be approved as it was submitted on August 16th, which included 4 of the letters being reused as signage on the building as part of that application. So that's where it stands right now. And I'm going to open it up to Julie to give us some more guidance on what action, if any, we have or we deem to take.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. I know there was some confusion about the ZBA hearing this case de novo, which means as new. But in fact, although the state RSAs don't use that term de novo, it's sort of implied in the RSAs that when a zoning board hears an appeal from any other land use board, not just the HDC, that they are hearing it as a new thing and they are actually in place of that board. So if something was appealed from the planning board, the ZBA would act as the planning board under their guidelines and their rules. So it was appropriate for the ZBA to hear this de novo. And just to back that up, that the de novo not being in the RSAs but still applicable, is there was a lawsuit in 1980 something in Kingston that the New Hampshire Supreme Court made that clear that the ZBA does act in place of whatever body is being appealed. So there is nothing more that we can go forward with.
So because it's de novo and it's a brand new decision, as if the HDC never existed and never saw the application, therefore even though that they granted the appeal to our administrative decision for a certificate of appropriateness, we have no action as the HDC to appeal that decision. Is that correct?
That's my understanding from the court case, but that court case involved an applicant who was appealing a decision by the HDC, so it wasn't quite the same, I have to say. But the findings of the court was that it was a de novo instance, so the HDC had no standing. So not having any standing means we still don't have any standing, as it's my interpretation.
Okay.
One other thing, Patrick, is that if we did try to appeal their decision, it would be town versus town,
right?
Which is always difficult.
Frowned upon.
Well, if we both wanted an attorney, it would be the same attorney, appealing both sides, or appealing one and defending the other. So it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Who then has the power to appeal the decision? Would it be a direct abutter? Or is there any other outside influence that is allowed to appeal that decision?
I believe in a direct abutter, which is described in our zoning ordinance as a
property owner, right?
Well, direct abutter, property owner, and within a 200-foot radius, I think. They can appeal. They would have to ask for a rehearing of the zoning board's decision. And if still not satisfied with that, then they can appeal to Superior Court. But really, that's the only group that can appeal is the bodies most affected by the decision of the ZBA.
Okay, I just wanted to bring clarity to that. I guess that's that, right?
There it is.
Okay.
I would like to add one point, though, and this is for developers and Ms. Courson, if you're still on the line, I have to say realtors and anyone else interested in economic development, that there's a book called The Economics of Historic Preservation, which goes into the detail of why or what is best preserved to revitalize or keep the vitalization of an historic district or historic building. The treatment of now I'm going to call it the Merrill building or Meyer building because it's no longer the IOCA, has left the building, and I have to say I apologize for my part in this, but because of the windows that were punched in and the changes to the first floor, it no longer is a contributing resource to the downtown historic district. And I want to add, if you allow me to expostulate further, Mr. Chair, or indulge me.
Go ahead.
I feel like the Historic District Commission is sort of twisting in the wind. I'll give you an example. The Conservation Commission has a person on staff who is dedicated to working on conservation land and programs for conservation. And she does a wonderful job. I have no problem with her, but I do have a problem with the fact that we don't have that kind of support either by a current employee or a future position. And I know future positions, speaking as a select woman, are very difficult to defend. I would like to say also that I feel like the two particular districts, the High Street Historic District and the Downtown Historic District, are being infringed on. The Front Street Historic District has had very little change to it, almost none. But the Waterfront Historic District, we have lost 4 buildings that 3 of them expressly called out in our zoning ordinance. They're gone. And so when we get into next actions that we might want to take, and when we get into our budget, I have a proposal for what we need to do with the education and redefinition of the Downtown Historic District.
Okay, great. I would be happy to hear that. I also am a little conflicted and twisted in the sense that having witnessed the ZBA meeting on Tuesday night and speaking our piece in defense of our decision collectively as the chair of the HDC, I found it we were powerless because the decision was de novo. It was being made by the ZBA members that did not seem to have the same sensitivity that we do for art, architecture, and historic preservation, and more so relied and defaulted to the guidance of the legal counsel of the applicant and the application of how the building and the proposed application was in the vision of the master plan, as opposed to any upholding of the historic preservation that our district defines. So I'm going to take it upon myself to have a formal meeting at a zoning board meeting in the future to try to bring more clarity to why we are the HDC and why we exist as the HDC and how we fit into the master plan of the town of Exeter, so that maybe in a future application, if we're so unfortunate to have another one appealed, that there may be a little bit more sensitivity to the efforts that we go through, not only in our exploration and our discovery and also our discussion and detail of our applications, but how we render our decisions most appropriately, or how we deem them to be most appropriate. So I'll take that upon myself, but open it up to any other comments from commission members.
Is there anything we can do about 110 High Street now? I mean, can we talk to the hospital board? Is there...
They, as the property owners, we could always ask them if they wanted to sit down for a meeting, or if I would assume that if we do that, it has to be less than 4 members. Otherwise, it becomes a quorum, and therefore a work session or a public hearing would need to be notified to the public. But if it's 3, and if there's 3 members that would choose to do so, then I mean, I don't think that there's anything wrong with requesting a meeting and seeing what can be done in terms of historic preservation for that property. I think that would be in keeping and in terms of outreach and education, exactly what we should do.
Yes, I think in keeping with the comments that we've made, also the relationship between the town and the hospital. It's important to have that. I think it's important to have that kind of conversation. Just so there's as Ms. Courson said, there's a sense of neighborhoodship there, and I feel that and this is purely not a direction for anyone, but that a conversation would be very helpful in the understanding of why we were having the discussion that we did, and help them understand, I think, why the developer withdrew his application.
Mm-hmm. And perhaps it may help inform them, if they still choose to sell the property, to seek out a new owner that would like to restore it or would like to take a different action as opposed to an application for demolition. I mean, anything would help at this point. So I guess I'll leave it at that. Any other? Thanks, Pam. That's a great thought, great idea to do. I nominate you to lead that effort.
Well, I'll call some people. I don't know anybody on the board now that Peter Smith isn't on it, but I'm sure I can find out. Yeah. Perhaps maybe the applicant we just had could steer you in the right direction, or at least the first contact. Anyone else? Any other comments before we look at the agenda items, or the approval of meeting minutes?
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
My stomach dropped when you said that there had been a ZBA meeting on Tuesday, and I want to apologize to you. I was not aware that they were going to be reviewing the appeal on the marquee, and I'm all ready to go. I have my speech ready. And maybe I'll just send it as a letter and expressing my disappointment in the final decision. But I apologize. I wish I had known. And I thought about it today and was meaning to get in touch with you to see if you had any updates. And I'm sorry I wasn't there to lend you some support.
No worries.
I mean, it might not have done any good, but it's always good to have another person behind you to say, yes, I am fully supportive of what Patrick is saying, and I support the decision of the board to have the marquee reinstalled on the building. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage you to look back at the film and review it, because it was a very interesting meeting.
Patrick, you did a great job, but you made one horrible mistake. I don't tell you how many phone calls I've had. The Ioka was named in a contest. It wasn't an original Indian word from Waianoa.
Oh.
Okay.
No, not an original word. It was Ioka was the definition of Ioka was Indian playground. Was it not?
That's what this girl said, but it's not any Indian word, any Indian language that I know of.
Okay, well, I didn't say it was an Indian word.
Yeah. But
I didn't make that up. I read it in a Exeter history book. So
Mr. Meyer, as a publicity stunt, had a what shall we name this? And this girl who sold the tickets there came up with this word from some handbook she found.
Huh. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. I stand corrected. Thank you, Pam.
Because now everybody thinks I told you that.
I'm going to tell them you did. All right. Well, with that, thank you very much for all of your efforts. I'll move to the approval of the meeting minutes from August 6th at this time. If anyone's got some corrections that need to be made, please go ahead and read those out.
Okay, picky stuff. Page 2, about halfway down. Indicative is spelled very wrongly. It's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, see that?
Yep. The sentence starts
Yeah.
is indicative of safety problems.
Yep, that's the one.
Okay.
Okay. And the next one is at the top of the next page. The letter from JSN was preceding that. What is interesting was as a pretty permanent place in town driving by every day, period. That's not a sentence. So how can we fix that? What was interesting was that on the date the letter was issued to the selectmen, the client's own crew were in the shade directly underneath the marquee. That sort of makes us, I think that tells you what you are saying.
Yeah, maybe striking that second sentence completely.
Yeah. Okay.
I had trouble with the next sentence. I don't know. I read it a few times and it's confusing.
That sounds like one of my 8th grade English students, and I would take it all out because it's just saying what the sentence before said. The irony of where that sentence came from, see, that's my 8th graders all over. Okay. And now, turnbuckle. Is turnbuckle or one word, turnbuckle? You've got to go. It's got to be one.
Yeah, it's one word.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then about halfway down, to make a reversal of that decision tonight or make a conditional approval. Is if you to make it a reversal or to take a conditional. You've got to either put the to in both places or else just take it out of both places and say make a reversal of that decision or make a conditional approval. Pick one.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know what to pick because the sentence itself is, I don't think, is complete.
It isn't.
Let me reread this.
Should we make a reversal of that decision tonight or make a conditional approval?
Yes, that sounds much better. Should we make?
Yep.
Okay. Should we make a reversal of that decision tonight or make a conditional approval allowing? Okay, that sounds much better. Thank you.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 from the bottom. Patrick asked if that was not available. Doug said he did not look. You've got note look. That's just a typo. Doug said he did not look inside the marquee.
Yes, correct. Not.
Okay. And top of the next page. Engineer tells something you may not say that. He has designed buildings which contractors have told him are over-engineered.
Yes, I do.
Okay. So you should not ever put an English teacher on your board. Okay. All right. Down at the bottom of the page, Dan Chatron's name is spelled wrong, and I think he'd be upset.
Yes.
Okay. Next page, end of the first paragraph. She finds this to be very telling and conserving. As an Exeter resident for 30 years, she has never noticed a change in IKEA's position. I wish we had an IKEA in this town, but we don't. I think she means the IOCA.
I'm not seeing where you're seeing that.
This is on...
IKEA, I got you.
Yeah.
IOCA.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 from the bottom. Sheila Mullen is an Exeter resident. She's speaking. She does not have a lot to add to what Elizabeth said. She was very elegant. Well, I think she may have been elegant, but we couldn't see that. So I think you mean eloquent.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep, and almost done. Almost done. We get to the. Okay. Scott Ruffner. Again, he's going to want you to spell his name right. Ruffner.
Where are you with that?
I'm on the next page.
Okay,
Scott Ruffner is
Ruffner.
Yes.
Ruffner.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
And I don't think I have anything else.
All right. Any other commission members have anything in addition to that? For August 6th meeting minutes. Okay, hearing none, I will call for a motion to accept these minutes as amended.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the Historic District Commission minutes as amended for August 6th, 2020.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, Doug?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Gwen?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Curtis.
Abstain, you were not there?
Correct.
Correct. Okay, thank you. Grayson?
Yes.
Okay. And I accept as well as I. So motion passes, approved as noted. Okay, August 20th meeting minutes. I will go ahead. Pam, did you attack this one as well with the same gusto?
I didn't see any problems with this one, so let's give it a...
Any other commission members?
I've actually got a few.
Okay, go ahead, Gwen.
Second page, fourth line from the bottom. Entry portico, Portico.
Oh, yes.
1, 2, 3, 4. Portico, yes.
On the bottom.
Portico. Got it. Thank you.
And then on the next page, the second line down, 1972 metal, METAL. And I don't know if Butler, if that should be a capital B.
I would make it a capital B.
Okay.
Metal as in
metal.
a ferrous metal.
Yes.
Butler, BUTLER, capital B. Okay, got it. Thank
the
you.
The very last line, it should be ornate, ORNATE.
Yep, got it. All right, thank you.
I think that's it.
All right, any other commission?
Is de novo, is it on the last page, is it to novo or de novo?
It's de novo, DENOVO.
So that should be changed to D.
Yeah, it's 2 words.
Mm-hmm.
Where do
That's
we
the second,
see?
it's like the last line on the last page.
Yeah.
Oh, next to the last page, I'm sorry.
Gotcha. Instead of to novo, it's DENOVO. 2 words.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And that's all I had.
Okay.
All right. Any other commission members find anything else? All right. Hearing none, I'll call for another motion to accept the meeting minutes of August 20th, approved as noted.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the HDC meeting minutes of August 20th, 2020 as amended.
Second.
All right. Thank you. That was Pam that seconded that. And we'll go by roll call. Doug?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Gwen?
I'm going to abstain. I was not at that meeting.
Okay, thank you. Julie?
Yes.
Grayson?
Yes.
Curtis was not as well. Curtis, you abstain, I assume?
Abstain, I wasn't there.
Thank you very much. And I myself approve as aye. So approved as amended. Thank you very much. That's all that we have listed under other business on our agenda tonight. So before I call for a motion to adjourn, anything any commission members would like to bring forth to the board, to the commission?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I wanted to talk about the budget for 2021. Because we are, as a select board, we are trying to keep as close to the 2020 budget, if not lower, because of the expenditures we've had to make with the changes in COVID-19. That being said, we had added $10,000 in a line for grant matching, and we missed the opportunity for the grant from the DHR, but their opening round for 2021 will happen soon after the town meeting. And so I would suggest that we try to get a grant for that, for resurveying both the downtown historic district and the waterfront historic district, and maybe I think the High Street district is too long for that one grant. But we definitely need some updating on the High Street historic. I'm sorry, I keep saying the wrong thing. The downtown waterfront historic district. The more we lose from that district, we endanger our National Register status. And so I would like to I would recommend updating that survey. So we can do that a couple of ways. Depending on the cost, we could match a grant. I think the National Association of Conservation Commissions, NAPC, has funding. We used them before for the training classes that we did one weekend. So I think they'd be a great source to find out if there's grants coming up that we can use that grant funding for, that I could commit to it in the budget process. So we have a couple of months to figure that out.
Remind me again what the funding mechanism is called for the state, for Exeter.
Are you talking about it being a certified local government?
Yes, thank you. Certified local government.
And Doug and Grayson, are you familiar with what that is, since you're the relatively new people?
I'm not, no.
Certified local government is a program done through the National Park Services that recognizes a town's appreciation of their history. You go through an application process which involves a record of, do you have a historic district? Do you have rules of procedure for that district? Do you have an application for that district? Do you keep minutes appropriately? Who are the members? And you do that for, we did it for the Historic District Commission and the Heritage Commission. And there are a couple of, you had to have copies of minutes, and went through a process, and it designates the town of Exeter as certified local government, which gives us an opportunity, because the Department of the Interior sets aside some funding every year for this program of being a certified local government. And that goes through the division, the New Hampshire Division of Historical Resources. And what that gives us is first dibs on the grant matching money that the Division of Historical Resources gets, as opposed to another town that doesn't have the CLG designation. Now, when I got the designation in 2009, I think it was, there was 10 and a half towns. One town was going through the process, and now there are over 25. So the competition for grant funding has gotten very, very competitive. So it's not as easy. We used to get a grant, every year, and sometimes even get more money after the March town meetings, where towns decided that they wouldn't do the matching funds or wouldn't approve the budget for that commission. So then the money was still left with the Division of Historical Resources, and they'd give me a call and say, "Do you want some more?" And of course, you always say yes. And you get a better product when you can pay a consultant more. So these grants have all been for a consultant to do various surveys for the most part. We had the one grant to do a training weekend with the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions. There it is, NAPC. So there's several different things we can do. The things like repairs or upgrades to a historical structure are like last on the list for the DHR. They really want to know, they really want to collect all the data that they can get from the town, from the whole state, from every town in every state about its development. If you'd like, at some point, we could review the mapping survey that the Heritage Commission started out with, which just was a show, or well, a record of the development patterns of the town of Exeter through time. And it started out in 1638 and it ended in the 2000s. And it shows you how typically how a town is developed, where there's a downtown that's very busy. And then as the town grows and the residents grow, the boundaries of the living area extend because they're building more residential, and then it'll extend some more, and then it comes back a little bit with infill architecture, which is what we see on High Street, and further out, along Front Street to the west side, up off Portsmouth Avenue where J.D. Hill is. It used to all be a farm, and now it became post-war World II housing. So these maps show that kind of growth and through the time periods based on what maps were available for public view. So I'd like to, when we have an opportunity to present that to this body, I have a PowerPoint show that does that.
So are we up? Because I know we typically kind of trade the applications for this grant funding between ourselves, the Heritage Commission, and Historic Society as well. Is that the three?
No, the Historical Society has never gotten one.
The Historical Society is not in the town budget.
Okay.
Sorry,
because they're not even an advisory board, right?
No, we're not.
Okay.
They are a separate nonprofit entity. So
gotcha. Is it just HDC and Heritage Commission then?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Okay. We trade back and forth. Right. So is it our turn? Is it our turn to submit the application, or?
Yes, that's where it is right now. The Heritage Commission has some ideas, but we haven't fleshed them out at all.
Okay.
So, and it might be something we can do in combination with the HDC and maybe the Sustainability Committee, which is doing a workshop on window repair or replacement, or repair, restoration, because we get so many applications about it. So it would be good to be able to combine as a group to give all three bodies some exposure. Mm-hmm. I think for this body, I'd like to know more what kind of project do you want to go for? Educational, survey? It depends. It will depend on which body we can get a grant from.
I think I'm in favor of education, just given that it seems like even within our own land use boards of the town that there's probably education missing as to the value and certainly the economic value of historic districts and how they fit into our master plan. So if that could be any part of it, I would probably lean towards education. Mm-hmm. The other big thing that we got that grant for was rewriting our guidelines. And that was probably the most significant one.
Right.
$25,000, I think it was, to rewrite our guidelines. So, I'm definitely in favor of submitting that application again to try to get that. Do you know if the funding has increased from the HDR at all? DHR, sorry.
Funding as in how much they get from the federal government?
Correct.
Probably, I would guess right now, they would get the same amount as last year or less.
Okay.
And it is a different amount every year, but it's split up to each state. New Hampshire has in the past got for quite a few years had $50,000 a year to give out to who, in the competitive now applications that they have. I don't know what their budget is this year.
Okay. One of the things that I would hope to be part of that education, and it was something that came up in the ZBA meeting, was the chair, Mr. Pryor, made a pretty definitive determination that the Ioka Marquee was iconic, but not necessarily historically significant. That something that is iconic doesn't define it as historically significant. I think that was a very dangerous definition to make. And I don't think that there's any precedent or any information that supports that. So I think that we would hope that that would be part of the education as well, in the sense that really helping to inform the ZBA for any future applications that may come in front of them de novo, because they are supposed to, I guess, disregard what the HDC has done and see the application fresh from the beginning to the end. It would help them make those determinations, I think, more historically appropriate. So with that, I think, is there anything else?
Did anyone else hear an idea that you liked for a grant, for a program? Okay.
I really like the idea of the window program. We've talked about that before.
We talked about that at the Heritage Commission, and we got a price for it, but we did not have the budget for it.
Nope.
The Heritage Commission has a little bit of money right now, and it keeps coming up that maybe we want to pay a little for this and maybe we want to pay a little for that. So if we can do it in a combination, I think we can get a pretty good show.
What about soliciting bids for resurvey? Do we have any idea of what that cost is to resurvey from our historic records of surveying, and we can then add inflation to it? Or do we have any idea what grant ask we would be asking for a resurvey of the downtown water district?
Yeah, historical surveys are best recognized if we want to go forward with something like applying for a National Register designation or for grant funding. They're best recognized if they're done by a professional preservation planner rather than a well-intentioned, well-knowledgeable group of volunteers. We certainly can help them and do some in-kind treatment. Remind me, of the Park Street survey was $22,500?
Just over 20,000.
And that was a tight budget that the planner, I don't believe, made a whole lot of profit on, if any. So
and it was incomplete. They couldn't do a whole job for that.
Not like a typical survey. A typical survey looks at every building in the area that you're surveying. And what we defined, what the Heritage Commission defined as the area we wanted to look at, was quite substantial. So they did modify how they did the survey based on, and surveys are based on several different aspects, not just the architectural style of the neighborhood, but also if there are any significant people that live there or develop there, if there's any other historic growth pattern, like the Franklin Street area wasn't known for a particular person, but for an area of residential use that was tied first to the mills and then became more of a geographical exodus kind of place. Like when the Italian families first moved into Exeter, they started out over there, and as they got more progressed through society, I guess is the way they put it, and moved to further out and had a little bit more land, then those spaces became residences for the immigration of the Polish folks, and then goes from there. So a survey can be based just on the demographic changes. It can be based on the architectural aspect of, is it a solid piece of, colonial ware in that district, or, different things like that. So there are periods of significance, people of significance, architecture of significance. And again, a survey like that, if we want to go anywhere forward with any kind of grant funding or recognition, it's best done by a licensed preservation planner who has follows the Code of Federal Regulation 66 something or other. I don't know what it is.
So we would have to seek that person out and solicit a bid from them, and then write the grant to pay for their fee to do that, and somehow match, not match in some percentage the grant.
You can match in kind, and you can match voluntarily, or match budgetarily. I think right now our budget for grant matching is $10,000. So that wouldn't get us a very big survey. And that's why I was thinking downtown, because it's a short area and a lot of the work has already been done, and some of it hasn't changed. So, in fact, the properties have gotten less. So,
Well, I'm definitely in favor of architectural survey if it provides us more information to make educated decisions about applications that come before us. I mean, we've got there's plenty of buildings downtown water district or waterfront district right now that I don't know the history of at all. And to have an architectural survey, or at least a document to say 1 or 2 pages on each building to say this is the significance, and it would help me certainly be more informed about applications that came before me about that building. So I'm in favor of that for sure.
Well, the 2 districts that we have that are on the National Register, the Front Street Historic District and the Waterfront Commercial District, are you can find at the Library of Congress, and you can download them for free from the Library of Congress. Just search for Exeter, New Hampshire. The Waterfront Commercial Historic District, their name is a little bit different than ours, was done in 1984, and it lists all the property owners at the time. And Pam, I don't know how many of them are still either live in Exeter or are still around.
Not many.
Yeah. So you get information like that. So doing a survey right now I think we'd get more information about the character defining features of the buildings that remain. I really am tossed up between doing that and doing something educational that we can, with Zoom or webinars, bring to a bigger body than will be listening to us tonight.
Gotcha. Okay. So then, I guess we'll all think about it. When does the application need to go in? Is it November usually, right?
The DHR one will be in November, yeah.
Okay. So we've got
I
until next meeting.
I think they moved it to July because we complained about having a short period of time between the budget being approved in March and their deadline in September or October. So now they've made it a 2-year cycle, just as the LCHIP grants are. So we can get approved. They moved the date where they ask for letters of intent, and then, a month or so goes by, and then they tell you that we want to see more. You make the formal application, and then the application takes a couple of months to go through. But the product doesn't have to be done for over a year after you've been approved, which gives us a better product in the end. So
right. So then, when is the letter of intent due?
It won't be due, I think, until July
of next year.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have some time to think about it.
Well, no, we don't, because the budget's going to be finalized in December. So what we really need to do, and I'm happy to do it, is look at the 3 sources of funding that I know about. If anybody else can, that would be the DHR, the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions, and the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance has a little bit money for grants, but nothing on the scale of what we're looking at. So we might be able to do a combination. So I'll do that before the next meeting.
Okay.
Get the information on deadlines, et cetera.
Sounds great. Thank you, Julie, for spearheading that. Pam, thank you for spearheading the talks with the hospital. And commission members, thank you very much for your time and input in these meetings. Your comments are always well pointed and valuable, so I do appreciate it. With that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. No need to approve that. Thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.